Thomas, writer, singer, believer, and recently published author of the brand new book, Pressure Off. I'm so excited to have Monique join me today to talk all things balance. Mon, welcome to Move With Purpose.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you and just getting into, I know we spoke before we started recording about what's the vision for Move With Purpose, and I really want to highlight guests moving and walking in purpose and get into the crux of how you do what you do, and more importantly, why you do it as well. So talk to me a little bit about balance, how you juggle marriage, motherhood, music, etc.
Wowza. Balance. I think there are lots of conversations about balance, and you know, I think most of us probably agree, you know, by this point that to kind of have this steady, you know, balancing act throughout life is not realistic.
Yeah.
It's more of a pulling and pushing, you know, and so in reality, I think what happens in life for me is that there are times when I'm focused on one particular area, or I'm giving more to a particular area, and times when I'm less devoted to something else. But overall, trying to kind of achieve a balance, but it's not at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, for example, like my kids have just come through the summer holidays now.
Wow,
and,
that must have been trying.
So I've got 3 boys in my house,
Yeah.
as you know, 8, 6, and 2.
Wow.
And they're off for 9 weeks in the summer.
It's a long time to be off.
It's a long time, right?
Yes.
And so I want to not feel like that period of time is a burden to my life.
Okay. How do
I
you
want to
do
embrace
that?
it. I want to enjoy that time for what it is, as much as possible. And so one of the things that I had started doing this year is really focusing on like my health and my fitness.
Okay.
That was a really big focus, because I really need to pay attention to my well-being in that way. But I knew when I came to the summer holidays, those 5:30 gym starts was not were not going to be happening, you know, and I got into a routine of going that early, and you know what, I loved it.
Is that before your household is awake? You're
Before
in the
the
gym?
house was awake, 5:30.
Yeah.
I'd come back, I'd be like a drill sergeant. Let's go. School run.
Really? Just got everyone under manners.
I felt amazing starting the day that way before school.
Yeah.
But summer holidays, it's gonna be unrealistic for me to do that.
Okay.
And so I paused my gym membership for the
Really?
summer. And I knew there was gonna be a dip then in my kind of, you know, goals in terms of what I've been doing there. But it just wasn't realistic, because I knew that I'm gonna be having later nights with the kids. They're gonna be out of routine. It's just, and so I think part of achieving balance is understanding the season that you're in.
I love that.
You know, if I'm in summer and I'm dressing up like it's winter, I'm going to be hot. And if it's winter and I'm trying to put on hot pants, you know, I'm going to be, so just, I think we can do ourselves a big favor by actually just accepting and embracing the time, the season of life that we're in. And sometimes I think there's a lot of pressure to push against that.
Okay.
I think that sometimes we feel like we're running out of time, and there's a lot of pressure to, you know, have it all together and to be firing on all cylinders at all, you know, times and seasons of life, and it's just not realistic. It's not healthy either.
That segment of firing on all cylinders, it's something that I love that you've spoken about, because I found I can't have all plates spinning at once.
Yes.
So I try and adapt my time so that if the business needs me, then that's spinning, and then I try and move to home really needs me now because my house looks a tip.
Yeah.
How do you kind of make sure that everything isn't firing all at one time?
So, you know, as I said already, we've got 3 little ones. I remember when I was pregnant with AJ, that's my youngest, I messaged one of my friends who had gone to 3 before me. And I said to her, any advice, you know, any tips? And then she messaged me back saying, get help.
Really?
Get help. And honestly, that is a brilliant piece of advice. I'd give it to anybody. Get help.
What kind of help?
You know, whatever it looks like.
Okay.
You know, I mean, when we had the boys, each one of them actually, what was really great, our church community did what's called like a meal train. You've probably seen it. You know, like meal train where you, so like it was like practical help. So meals were cooked for us for 2 weeks, you know. My mom came and stayed, you know. So sometimes it's just practical help in that way. Sometimes it's like, you know, prayer. You know, I've got a very, very supportive husband who's very hands-on with the kids as well, and really supports my endeavors. That makes a huge difference to the reality of on the ground. Do you know what I'm saying?
I can relate. Big up the husbands.
Yeah.
Particularly when I had Rain, the first 2 weeks, I only got 2 weeks off work. And those 2 weeks were everything. I was like, okay, he's home, he's here. I can pump, and then Owen can take over and do bottle. Yeah. But you see, once those 2 weeks were up, I just felt like I was thrown into the dark. And I remember the morning he had to go to work, I was bawling, just thinking, can I do it without him? Yeah. Did you ever have an experience like that?
I think I had my can I do it moment. I'm thinking about Jude, who's my firstborn, just at the crux of giving birth. Okay. So I was literally, it was a few days, I knew it was coming up, and I was just exhausted. And I was like, how am I going to be able to breastfeed? Yeah. How am I going to be, like, I can just about pull myself, I haven't got what it takes. I haven't got what it takes. I can't do this. And, you know, I remember after having him, how just something kicks in. Yes. You know, you don't know where that strength comes from. That
but arrives.
It arrives, you know. And you know, breastfeeding takes some time to get a handle on, doesn't it? And everything takes a handle. Everything's, especially the first time, everything is new. Yeah. Everything is new. So it's like in your face. But I think I really had that moment just at the crux of giving birth. Okay. I just felt like I can't do this. I actually cannot. But something kicks in. And so
internally, or did you have to speak into yourself?
I'm the kind of person that tries not to think too far ahead when it comes to eventualities with stuff. I try not to do stress. Okay. That's important. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I'm saying that, and obviously these times, you know, things get stressed. Pregnancy is a hard time for me. Mobility wise, I really, really struggle. And
is that with all three of your pregnancies?
With all three of them. And it increasingly got worse. So
really?
I had what's called SPD, which it basically, especially if you're somebody who is hyper flexible, which I am, there's a rubbing that takes place in the hip area, which just makes it so hard to walk. Just simple movements like getting in and out of the bath, getting in and out of the car. So with AJ, my last child, I didn't walk for the last 4 months probably of that pregnancy. Just couldn't do it. It was just too painful to kind of walk around the block, mentally? Get up and move. It became really, really difficult because, you know, just movement in general is good for your mental well-being.
Absolutely.
But because of the lack of movement, I put on a lot of weight, which I do with my pregnancies. I tend to put on a lot of weight with pregnancy. But it was even more so. And then the weight doesn't help with the joint pain. And then you got the kids still, you know,
active.
They still want you to do the basics.
For sure.
And so it became very, very, very challenging. But I don't think I was able to really appreciate how difficult that was until afterwards I'd had him, after I'd had him. And then it probably took me about 2 to 3 months to be able to walk the block after giving birth. And so, and then AJ wouldn't take a bottle, so I breastfed him exclusively for a year. A whole year. No bottle. It was there was a lot of strain on my body. And that's why well-being, like I was saying to you before about, you know, health and fitness became a real big push for me. When I stopped breastfeeding, I was just like, where am I?
I remember you putting up a post. I think I messaged you on Instagram. You shared a picture of you. I think it was just before you had the baby. Yeah. And then immediately after. And you were kind of being transparent and sharing that I feel a hot mess, but I'm sharing this so moms understand it's absolutely okay to feel like that.
Yeah.
And I remember being pregnant with Rain at the time, and I was reading the post, and it actually brought me to tears.
Wow.
Because I had so much pressure of how quickly can I get back to dancing after I've had Rain? What if my body's not going to allow me to?
Yeah.
I was in this constant feeling of I need to bounce back.
Yes.
Bounce back is a term that so many people use, particularly
Honestly.
for us as moms.
Yeah.
Ma, you've bounced back. And I'm like, mentally, you don't even know what's going on
Yeah.
up here. But that post was so like inspirational for me because it made me feel like I could take my time.
You're absolutely right. There's that pressure to like bounce back, snap back, be where you were. And the reality is that this process that you've gone through has changed you completely. And also, you know, the bounce back, let's be real, is often about what you look like physically.
Yeah.
The external, the superficial things, you know, and it takes away from the miracle, like the beauty of this incredible process that you've just journeyed through.
Absolutely.
There is no rush because the getting there is not actually anything to do with what we need per se. It's about what other people think we should be, or, you know, the pressure to be something that we're not, rather than actually just resting in the moment.
Wow.
The moment with your baby, you know, kind of just the cooing, the lot. Do you know what I mean? Those precious little moments that you have, actually, we begin to
last forever.
That don't last forever. We need to take away from them because we're trying to fast track. You know,
you're speaking directly to, I want to say, the old me. I was constantly in fast track mode.
Yeah.
And I thought that having Rain would slow me down, and it sped me up. Right up until when I went into labour, I was in a dance class the night before, and I didn't understand that I was speeding up the process and not allowing my body to just naturally feel what was coming.
Wow.
Right up until when she was here, I had to run payroll 4 weeks after she was born.
Wow.
I didn't delegate it because I wanted to just
bounce back. Wow.
Until 3 months into being a mom, I hard crashed and got into a space that I didn't recognize myself.
Wow.
And that was the moment I was like, I'm going too fast. Slow the hell down. Like, what are you speeding up for? What's the end goal for you, man? Is it to be alive and well and enjoy what you're doing? Or is it to be flat out on the floor? And where I was heading, I would have been flat out on the floor.
Where is this ideal coming from? You know, who says that, you know, you need to be kind of keeping those plates spinning at all times? I think we have to do the work of, you know, identifying the voices and dismantling those things, because actually you were in autopilot. This wasn't actually like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you did say to yourself, I want to get back, I want to keep going. Yeah. But even that urge is like a knee-jerk reaction to what? Do you know what I mean?
To what? Exactly.
And I think that's the conversation we have to have, because sometimes we don't understand the waters that we're swimming in, and the culture, and how that is kind of dictating certain things to us about who we should be, where I should be at this point in time, you know, what motherhood should look like for me. There's all these, you know, expectations coming in from different places. And I think if we can be brave enough, you know, to challenge them, we can actually begin to do life on our own terms.
Wow. I love that. Do life on our own terms. Saying that, I want to move a little bit into your music. For my longest memory of you, I've always known you as a beautiful singer. You did an album, you were on an album or an EP with my auntie many years ago.
Oh yes! Oh my God! Virtuous Records.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And I had 3 copies of that, and I used to just play it on repeat I think I was about 11.
Gosh.
So my longest memory of you, Mon, is your beautiful voice.
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with music now?
Music is like my heartbeat. It's a wellspring. It really is. And I'm so grateful for the gift of song.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because I can take it with me anywhere, wherever I am. You know, we're talking about different, you know, seasons of life, and you know, it's when I'm putting the kids to bed, if I'm struggling to get them to sleep, I can just worship.
Wow.
And it's gonna settle them, and it's gonna settle me at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's you know, when I'm driving along the car, do you know what I mean? It's a soundtrack to my day. So music is such a gift to my life. I'm so grateful, so grateful that I have this relationship with music.
How have you allowed it to become the fabric and foundation of your home?
I don't know, like I'm just a bit of a jukebox. Okay. So I'm just singing all the time anyway. You know, sometimes I don't even realize that I'm singing. So I think it's quite a natural thing.
Okay.
It's just a natural thing that I guess my kids would enjoy music, and that music would be in our home in the way that it is.
I really struggled with music as a new Christian. I really battled with the idea of, especially as a dancer, I really struggled in the sense of, obviously I loved worship music and I would create to that, and when I dance and worship I'm in a different space, but I also loved being in a sassy space and bodying Missy Elliott and going ham to Cardi B. I loved that. And I found that when I became a new Christian, I was in this weird space of, was I allowed to do that part while still worshipping? And I would constantly battle with it. And I'd have conversations with my husband, like, I've recorded this lit dance video and I don't feel like I can put it out because the church is gonna... And I was constantly in this war zone until I just was like, forget it. I'm just gonna just be me. And I got a lot of backlash for that.
What was the What was it?
I think it was why am I worried about what other people think?
Okay.
Like when I was expressing myself to secular music, I always have this thing where there's no swearing allowed. But I absolutely did want to express myself in that way.
Yeah.
So I think I just had a shackles off moment and was like, I'm not going to be confined by what church says a modern day dancer should look like.
Yeah. I think what I love about what you shared, to be honest, is the And I think that has relevance for so many different areas of life.
Yes.
The danger or the challenge is, and particularly in church, I will say as well, is that we end up living out someone else's Christianity, someone else's conviction. But I think what's most important is that I'm being true to me and where I'm at, because actually God is looking for me to come to him in truth. You know, he's looking for worshipers that will worship him in spirit and truth. And so if, you know, my decision making about anything for that matter is based on other people's opinions, what they think about me, what other people think I should and shouldn't do, then there's going to be an incongruence. I'm actually going to be under pressure and an unhealthy type of pressure, because I'm now, I'm not living authentically. And, you know, I think oftentimes in life in general, the pressure is to live from where we think we should be rather than where we truly are. And actually my experience is that God meets me in the authentic place.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So Mon, pressure off, newly published author of this fabulous book, which is all about learning to embrace the gift of God's grace.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write this book?
Thank you. I'm so thrilled that the book is here. It's emerged really, you know, from conversations, from personal experiences with friends, and just I think just the general sense that we're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any kind of surprises in making that statement. You know, we're under a lot of pressure today. And even though it's something we can all relate to, when we're going through it, it's often a very isolating and lonely experience.
Yes.
I really wanted to capture some of that. And, you know, in the church, you know, we often talk about the gift of God's grace, but actually what I've experienced and what a lot of my friends have shared that they've experienced as well is that in this place, I feel like I'm actually under more pressure sometimes than actually perhaps even my friends who are not in church. And why is that? You know, what's going on here? And there's this sense of having this spiritual to-do list that's, you know, compounding on the pressure I'm already experiencing to do more, to be more, to have more. And so I really wanted to kind of bring that conversation to the fore. And this book is a conversation starter. Throughout the book, there's like, you know, 8 chapters in the middle section, like pressure off power, pressure off productivity, pressure off perfection, you know, and I'm really trying to engage us in a conversation where we look at how can we orient ourselves towards the way of Jesus in some of these really significant areas of life.
Wow. I can't wait to get my teeth stuck into it. What was your process in writing it to a deadline without feeling pressure?
Well, can I just say, the last chapter in the book is pressure on.
Okay.
Because sometimes the pressure is on,
For
and
sure.
sometimes the pressure needs to be on. But to the process, this book really has been in the making, I would say, for about 8 years.
Okay.
Not in the exact format that it is.
Nice.
I wrote a lot of proposals. And then there was one person who came back to me and said, "This isn't the book, but I love your writing."
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. And I'll say, you know, that maybe sounds a bit harsh, like this isn't the book, but essentially it wasn't the book. And we began to collaborate and talk through, you know, other concepts that were still very much in line with who I was and what I wanted to talk about.
Good.
But some of it was about packaging.
How does a publisher help with that? Because I've wrote 2 books now and I've self-published both of them.
Incredible.
I haven't really had the intel and the knowledge to go, let me approach a publisher with this. I think the fear factor as well. So what made you start there?
I've done the whole self-release, self-publishing of my music.
Okay.
I've done that journey, done that grind.
Yes.
And I know it's a grind.
Absolutely.
And being at the position that I am now, being a mom, working mom as well, my prayer really to the Lord was, God, I need a team.
Yes.
I don't want to do this on my own. Some people ain't feeling it. They're going to say, oh,
This
thanks,
isn't
but
for
no
us.
thanks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so I was just prepared to kind of deal with that rejection
Okay.
and not take it too personally. I love feedback as well. I love constructive feedback. And, you know, I happened to connect with an amazing editor, Elizabeth Neep, shout out.
Wow.
Who, and you know something, I say this quite a bit now, you often hear about the author, but you don't hear about the editor so much.
For sure.
The editor is critical to the evolving of that book, the evolution of that book. And Elizabeth and I, we connected on a heart level. And, you know, she really believed in me. She believed in my writing. And we just went on a journey together to kind of bring in the book together. And she's phenomenal. Honestly, I can't thank her enough.
And one thing I really enjoy about releasing books is its legacy. Once you've done it once, you don't do it again.
Exactly.
It's published, it's out there forever.
Yeah.
Your kids will be able to get a hold of this book.
I'm telling you.
And that's really powerful for me.
Yeah,
I think it's important.
Absolutely. I'm so passionate about documenting things. So passionate about it. And as I said to you before, I'm on an MA course.
Yes.
And I love the research piece because it's about documenting, capturing something in time, you know, and keeping a record of what's taken place, and other generations can come back and look at it. And you don't have to get weighed down with trying to do it all. You can just capture this moment. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and it's inspiring. You know, when I see you I'm like, Romanah is. But my kids, I'm reading a children's book with my kids at the moment. And
wow.
Yeah, and that, you know, they came to my launch, and so they're excited, they're inspired, and we've set a little goal actually for their next birthday party to be a book launch.
Excellent.
They're excited about that.
I love that idea.
But it's legacy, like for the years to come, and it's legacy, and it's inspiration now. I wrote a book because I saw my brother write a book.
Yes.
And actually 8 years ago when I first started, we were both sat in my kind of music room at my house, and he had been sharing with me his book writing process.
Excellent.
And so I was like, okay, should I have a go?
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
No way.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
gave you that push that you feel like you needed to just get it out.
Actually just seeing someone do it.
Okay, the representation.
The book has grown with me in terms of its content. So I can't tell you how much. Like, this book has been like a faithful friend.
Yes.
Do you understand what I mean? It's been like a
Absolutely.
journal. It's like I've been working out me in the process of writing this book. You know, I'm working through stuff. It's like I needed that book
just for you. If no one else buys it,
if nobody else buys
me.
it, the process for me has been phenomenal. You see this with the young people that you're working with all the time. Like, you know, like they're gonna look at you. If Romanah did it, I can do it.
And it's really funny you should say that, because my most recent book was a children's book, Leap of Faith, and I didn't have children's book in the plan. I just wanted to write specifically for adults, and then Leap of Faith came, and I felt that I needed to put out something that all the other young dancers coming up through Eloquent could go, wow, I can do it.
Yes.
And I remember doing the book launch here in the studio and just being like, oh, it's going to be a kids book launch. It's going to be super, you know, comfortable and easy. And we did a Q&A, and I had about 55 young Black dancers in the space. And one of them said to me, looking at the book cover, I saw myself.
Wow.
And I've been to other dance companies and I've never saw myself. But reading the book and being at Eloquent, I feel like I'm being seen. 8 years old.
Beautiful.
And I remember looking at my mom like, how do I answer that? Absolutely mind-blowing. And priceless. She was the very reason I then went, oh, this process was so worth it.
Yeah. There's a cost. Sometimes the pressure is on, you know, and in the last chapter of the book, there's a line, it says that pressure burst pipes, but when God's hand's involved, it produces diamonds.
Wow. When
we partner with the Lord and, you know, really embrace our passions, connect with our purpose and move forward. Sometimes there's some pressure involved in that, there is.
Yes.
But when we're with him, the grace is there to do it. And the fruit of it is that.
Yes. Life-changing, right?
It's life-changing, it's beautiful, it's precious, you know, and so it's worth it.
It is.
It's worth it.
Do you ever feel like there's a point where there's too much pressure? And how do you counteract that? So when the pressure's on and, you know, it's good pressure and God's grace is with me, I can do it. But is there ever a point where it's just too much?
Absolutely. That's why we wrote the book. Because like the bulk of the book is pressure off.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, so how do we know when this is unhealthy pressure? And I think there are a few things that can really help us to identify those moments. I think there's a difference when we spoke a bit earlier on about decision making based on the shoulds.
Yes.
I think those are things to look out for, the shoulds.
Okay.
You know, am I doing this because it's what other people are asking me to do, what other people think I should be doing? That's a pressure, an unhealthy pressure on moment. I think when my well-being is not being attended to, you know, when self-care is going out the window, my sleep is off, my eating's off, you know, I'm not resting adequately. I need to really be reevaluating what I'm doing here, because I'm a whole being.
Yeah.
I'm a whole being. And I think in faith spaces, sometimes what happens is actually there's this, dualism, this separation between the physical and the spiritual parts of who we are. And sometimes what that results in is a disregard for my well-being,
Right.
my physical well-being. And I think it's the same thing sometimes, Mans, that causes us to have an issue with dance.
Yeah.
It's the same mindset, do you know what I mean? That divorces us from our physical care. So, there's so much research out there now, isn't there, that kind of shows the connection between our physical and our mental well-being. And so we've got to take those things seriously. For me, I don't want to be growing big outwardly and dying and feeling crushed inwardly.
Wow.
Like, there's...
That's so powerful.
Yeah. And it's easy for that to happen. So I think just kind of being aware of that and the authenticity of that, and being honest. I'm like, I share quite a significant story at the start of the book. I became a Christian when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And at 19 years old, I fell pregnant.
Wow.
And I didn't keep that child.
Yeah.
I went on to have a termination. And that was such a difficult part of my life journey. And I kept it a secret. I didn't tell anybody.
Wow.
For almost 2 years. I didn't share that with anybody. But whilst I thought that keeping it a secret would kind of protect me from the public condemnation, actually, the silence of the experience, the silent shame was actually killing me. It was breaking me. And so I share in the book, how, whenever there was a dedication or, we were praying for a woman to conceive, I just wanted the ground to swallow me up.
Yeah.
I was like, I was experiencing pressure from the silence of what was going on, the shame. And I eventually spoke to a close friend of mine, talked to her about it, and she encouraged me to speak to my pastor. At the time, a lady called Pastor Sandra, who has been just an incredible gift to my life. And I opened up to Sandra. First of all, I just told her that I was having sex.
Okay.
Let's just start small.
Yes.
How
did she receive it?
And I was like, she's all right. I can talk to this lady. So I came back and then I told her about the termination. And Sandra didn't condemn me. She didn't make me feel as awful as I already felt.
Wow.
But actually what she did is she, for me, embodied the grace of God. She demonstrated the grace of God to me. She helped walk me on a journey to restoring my relationship with the Lord. And not because God had turned away from me, but because I just felt so unworthy that I could not turn to him. Through that relationship with Sandra, I learned about the power of confession, how breaking the silence disarms shame. And I was really able to go on a journey of forgiving myself.
That's us feeling.
Forgiving myself. It was a game changer. Absolute game changer.
Wow. Man, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank God for Sandra.
Thank God for Sandra.
Thank God for Sandra.
I'm still thanking God for Sandra.
And
honestly.
I say that because I feel like sexual immorality, there we go, can can be something that keeps people from church. And it's something I'm so passionate about talking about. It gets me excited. You know this from when we did that Zoom during lockdown.
Yes.
It is the key thing that makes people feel like they're unworthy of the grace of God. And it really upsets me. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not a member of any church and wouldn't put myself to be a church figure, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because there's so many themes that aren't discussed in church in an open, balanced, graceful way that absolutely should be. And sex is one of them. And I never forget, I decided to be celibate from the age of 17. And when I met my now husband, he was a Rasta and he was just not on the celibacy journey and on a completely different path. And we were really good friends. And we had a conversation about what celibacy was. And he was like, well, why are you pursuing that? And he was challenging my idea of it. And then 3 years later, he gave his life to God.
Wow.
And joined me on the celibacy journey.
Wow.
Hilarious. But we were courting, dating, and decided to go on holiday. And Omar's pastor had said to him at the time, that's a really big, bad decision that you're making. And he was just like, I can't understand why. We got so much backlash from church leaders who were close with us, even family members, elders, that were going, if you go on holiday together, you're going to fornicate. And we were like, if we wanted to fornicate, we could do it here. Being on holiday is no different. So we spent all of our courting, dates, everything, battling with this idea of you're going to fornicate. We then decided to buy a house before we got married. Who told us to do that?
You like said chuff. That was another chuff
that
moment.
That was another chuff moment. And it was continually redefining what modern day godly relationship really looks like and how we manage that while still remaining celibate.
It's such a great example of doing life authentically. You know, we're not called to religion.
Amen.
We're called to relationship.
Yes.
And what my relationship with God and how I live out my relationship with God is going to look different to how you live out and walk out yours.
Yes.
You know, and so the beauty of it is that it invites us all into a different story. And that is one, I think, of relationship. I think that is one of authenticity and liberation.
Wow.
The pressure on purity is crazy. Yeah, my encouragement is that God's grace is broad, it is wide, it is vast, it's deep. And I just want to encourage people to find places and spaces where they can be honest. But also I want to read something to you, Man, of a verse of scripture that's connected to this experience. Because I was feeling under pressure in that place of silence.
Right.
And not talking about what had happened for me wasn't good for my mental well-being, wasn't good for my heart.
Right.
And I started reading Psalm 32, and as I read this passage, it was like the Lord was like speaking. It was like this was my story. I'm going to read it to you. But it says, blessed is the one whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against them, and in whose spirit is no deceit. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. And I talk about three hands in chapter 3, in the final chapter, of the book, Pressure On. And one of them is the heavy hand. And that heavy hand sometimes that feels like pressure, maybe that heavy hand sometimes is God's hand.
Wow.
You know, and it's not coming to condemn us. It's actually coming to push us towards him so that we can receive the forgiveness that he's already made available.
Right.
It's the heavy hand that's pushing us towards repentance so that we can actually receive his grace. You know, like in that moment when I was with Sandra.
Yes.
You know, I cried for weeks and weeks. I'm telling you, I'd meet up with her and I'd just be bawling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just like healing. You know, it was like such a restorative time. And I can hear her now, you know, she would say to me, you know, if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to cleanse us of all unrighteousness, you know. And so I think there's two things, you know, that we can feel caught between sometimes, like the pressure from people's perceptions, what people think, what they have to say, you know what I mean? And we got to do that work of really letting go of that stuff. Then there's a different kind of pressure, but it's a healthy pressure that God, you know, kind of just is gently pressing us towards him, into his arms. Because actually I think sometimes when we feel like we've made mistakes and maybe we've done things that we don't think are necessarily the right thing, we kind of hide. We go into hiding, you know, and God's like, no, I'm here. Where are you? I'm looking for you. You know, like to Adam and Eve in the cool of the day, you know, they were covering up themselves, you know, like, where are you, Adam? Kind of thing. You know, he's like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere, you know.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we don't have to hide.
What would you say is next for you, Mon?
What should I've put down considerably is my 5 and 10 year plan.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a stickler for a good 5 and 10 year vision board plan.
Let me tell you, that was me to the core.
Did you find you were becoming a slave to it almost? Or
I've realized that even with the best laid plans, you know, I got to allow myself to be formed by God, and that formation is uncomfortable. It's unexpected sometimes. You know, he's the potter. This is the other hand of God, the potter's hand. You know, he puts us on that wheel, you know, and sometimes my 5 and 10 year plan isn't flexible enough. I'm like, I want to be going here. I want to be doing this. And he's like, I'm molding you, you know? And so I'm still a dreamer. But I think what I'm trying to do more and more is to be in the moment, and hold on to those things more lightly. So what's next for me is obviously I've released a book, and I'm studying at the moment. I'm currently in the process of qualifying as a therapist.
Wow.
And I'm still doing the music. As long as I'm writing, as long as I am helping people, I'm happy. You know, and so I'm just really trying to follow the breadcrumbs. And really do this thing by faith.
So important, isn't it?
Really do, and that doesn't mean being sloppy either. That doesn't mean, you know, as I said, not planning and being excellent. Because I think that's really, really important. Those are still important values for me.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm trying to
pace yourself, would you say?
Trying to pace myself, and I'm trying to live a surrendered life.
Just before we close, can you give a key takeaway to our listeners?
We can't start from where we think we should be.
Yes.
We've got to start with where we are. Just be kind to yourself. Be gracious to yourself. And sometimes starting with where you are might feel counterintuitive to change.
Right.
If you're seeking and desiring transformation. But actually it's the very thing that we need to do. To accept our current location is the very thing that we need to do to move forward to where we want to be. Yeah.
Man, thank you so much again. Continually inspired by what you do. Please continue to share all elements of your life on Instagram, because that's where I'm learning from you.
Stop it.
And I can't wait to get my teeth stuck into this book.
Yes.
If you haven't already, please go and purchase Mon's new book, Pressure Off, available on Amazon. Mon, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
I love you too.